But I'm thrilled to be here. I'm thrilled to be up here and talk about and to folks that I feel like I'm among friends like never before, because I am a qualitative researcher, trained as a moderator, I suppose would be the formal name for it, and spend lots of times, like all of you, in front of strangers in their homes and all kinds of fun situations getting to know them. I probably should have had a title that wasn't so bold, because I'm going to touch on all of that, but I probably should have just said technology is neat, and then hopefully got to some of this human truth and connection stuff, because it is what I really care about. But I am going to weave in sort of technology and video and how that all works together, because that's what Big Sofa does, but I'll get to that later. I did want to tell, I had a really amazing experience 3 or 4 weeks ago, and my first time in 10 years of moderating. I was moderated myself. I had a friend call who's training a junior moderator, who Tim, you might know, and she wanted to do a practice in-home. And I was like, oh my gosh, neat, sure. And also, I should be great at this. I'm like an oversharer by nature, as my team would tell you. So I couldn't wait. I'm like, gosh, I know exactly how this is going to go. I'm so excited to have her over. But of course, I got busy that morning, and she shows up, and I had that feeling that I'm sure lots of people, as I'm opening the door, and I'm like, sorry, I didn't clean up, and ignore that room. We'll go in here, and I had all of the things that happen that I've watched people in this sort of nervous, oh my God, like, what am I gonna say? What's she gonna ask? I don't know, overshare. Oh, you brought more people. I honestly didn't know she was gonna bring more people. I think sometimes we don't tell them. I had all of these funny moments, and two things occurred to me by the end. One is how formal some of it still is, right? The moment you sit down and explain, I'm an independent researcher, and you can't offend me. And she said some of the things that I know that I've told my people to say, that I said 100 million times, but still came out in a strange sort of formal way. And also how inhibited I still felt, again, very much an oversharer, a qualitative gal by nature, like kind of excited to talk about myself for 90 minutes. And still there were moments where I was like, ooh. And the last thing, I guess, is she asked some questions that I know I have asked hundreds of times that I didn't quite know how to answer, and found, one of them was just the chapter of life I think I'm in, like if I had to give it a title. I love that question, and it's so neat when you get back and you can line up all the different chapters and say something about the segment. But I was like, that's so weird, I don't know. But so anyways, I think there's ways for us to evolve, and that's why I'm here and what I'm hoping to talk to. It's the arrow. Yes. It also had me thinking about the difference between a human connection and qualitative research, and it occurred to me that maybe qualitative didn't start there. It didn't start about connection. It started about sort of the going in and taking of information. We are not sure, we have to ask more, we want to know why. But I don't know as it was born from a will to connect, truly. But I think we're getting there. I think things like empathy, I think things like going to where people are in a community space, I think all of the methods that are getting us closer are certainly helping. And I also believe, and why I joined Big Sofa and why I'm super passionate about the idea of a beautiful human technology, is that I think these two things can lead to rich human connection like never before, and hopefully talk to some of that today, inspire you to think more about how you could integrate that into your designs, whether it integrates video or video platforms like ours or not, but that you think about what's possible there. As I mentioned, I'm going to talk technology and video sort of interchangeably, and I think there's three spaces. I think we can be better in our methods and how we capture a little more show, a little less tell. I think it's already happening, but there are ways to make it a little less scary and leverage video. I think listening as an art form, and I'll talk a lot about actually kind of what we do if we capture well on the back end, and how we think about our expertise and our methods and our opportunities as really brilliant folks in analysis, which has been so behind closed doors. I think there's ways to bring that sort of to the forefront in light of and in hopes of connection. And then we've talked about it in lots of different ways, but I would be amiss to not talk about what collaboration looks like and how to activate, because that's how qual, I think, stays really relevant. So let's talk about methods. Good news is I think that things are evolving. Has anybody in here done a TDI? I have never done a TDI. Yes, okay, I'm so glad everybody didn't raise their hand. That's good news. So maybe we've moved a lot of focus groups, I'm assuming. Have we ever? done a bunch of focus groups. I didn't know Trump didn't like them. That is news to me. The in context, obviously, I hope we're getting out there more and more. And some folks, and maybe raise a little higher, has anybody started doing kind of more pure observational and capturing without talking? Good. Awesome. I think that's sort of where we're going in this pursuit of maybe the truth part of what I'll talk about. And lots of times I think video and technology are helping us get better at just capture that research, right? So it's in qual actually more than when we talk to quantitative audiences. We're used to the question, can we videotape this? that comes up all the time, and we may cringe because, oh, you're going to ask me for a clip. But at the same time, it's sort of we're used to that format. And I think, again, it's getting more comfortable, whether it's behavioral by kind of mobile or if it's cameras that are actually installed in the kitchen and we're watching our friends in the millennial world cook versus asking. But I wonder what if it was more than that. The other thing I think we've been doing with video, and we've seen some of them over the course of these 2 days that's brilliant, is those sort of 2 to 3 minute helping teams kind of get the flavor of what we do, right? So there's nothing like a video. I'm sure you've all felt that way. You've either been asked as a researcher or as an insights manager, can you just make sure we have some clips to show at the presentation? That we're getting better and better at getting access to those and getting people in front of them. But I think there's room for more there, and it can really better our industry if we do that. And I do think there might be a risk involved in just that 2 to 3 minute. It's not that I think we shouldn't do it, but there might be a risk, and I want to show you guys might have seen this. Let's watch a quick video, and I'll talk it.
Scandals happen all the time. The question is, how do democracies respond to those scandals?
And what will it mean for the wider region? I think one of your children has just walked in. I mean, shifting sands in the region. Do you think relations with the North may change?
I would be surprised if they do. Pardon me. Pardon me. My apologies.
What's this going to mean for the region?
My apologies. North Korea, South Korea's policy choices on North Korea have been severely limited in the last 6 months.
Right. I still get heartburn. Oh, oh my goodness. So, had you guys seen that? Has somebody? Yeah. Holy cow! I sent it to all my friends immediately. I was like up in arms for lots of reasons. Everybody was laughing because it is hilarious. But as mom of two, I had a visceral reaction. And may have been, as Michelle and Sherry could tell you, I might have been a little angry at the guy. I mean, he waved it. Have you waved a toddler before? You can't just wave. That's like a fart. This is like a toddler. And then she looked terrified. This is so shameful. I can't believe I'm admitting it in front of all these people, but I was worried about her. Like, did he go in the other room and hit her? I mean, it's a shame. I have a wild imagination, and that's for another talk. But also, so many emotions, and that's the point. And I didn't show a sad video because I was pissed at Tim for making me cry yesterday. But they evoke something, and that's the point. And you want that, you need that. You want someone to serve their consumers and be inspired by them, and that's so important. And I think that should be a first step. But my hope is videos can do more than that. And has anybody read the follow-up article? I should give this guy some credit. And there were so many reasons this all went down. She is his lovely wife. They've done a bunch of interviews since then. She's adorable. He absolutely did not even close to think of hitting her. It was just a really, he was trying to be buttoned up. He didn't know he was going to be on camera. He set up his office and put those books just so, and then it all came crashing down, right? Like, this poor guy. Really, I should have been feeling for him. And that's true sometimes. I think when we show videos, our teams, if we just get the 2 to 3 minutes, they sort of grab on to one moment. How many people remember in the millennial video you just saw the moment with the sink and the chicken? That's me too. That's all I can think about. If I were the R&D person somebody tells me to go work on something that's in the prep, I'd be like, they're doing it in the sink. What do you want me to do? But you, as a researcher, would be like, no, there's so much more. Like, you Yes, that was to illustrate a point, but click in, see the rest of the detail. Like, you want them to be interested and inspired and go do something, but you want them to do the right things. And how do you get from that initial video into the data and also ensure that that sort of the work we do continues to inspire? So that's the big question for me, and I think technology can enable this, is what if our video became our data? So we were talking a little bit about, sort of the quiet qual that is in quant. What if we had some quiet quant in our qual, because we're starting to break apart all of the richness in a way that people can actually hang on to and do something with the sort of nuance, the micro behaviors that exist in all of our conversations. What if we could do more with them? What if we could get people to access them, connect with them, search them, dig in a little bit more to the rest of the data and kind of gauge and get interest that way? So that's a lot of what we'll talk. So this does mean that video would become a currency. I think this is already happening, even if Gen Z doesn't like video, but they are good at it. Whatever that is, I think that they're starting to speak in it. People are sending video to each other more and more. Since I had kids, and I barely am a millennial mom, have not called my mom. I have only FaceTime since kids. We are more used to talking via video than calling. She doesn't want to see me. She wants to see them. But it becomes then a currency for communication. There's also this wave of, sort of clipping things putting them on YouTube, showing people how you do things, exchanging information that way. And we have to be, especially as qualitative researchers, we have to be in that mix. But I know what you're thinking. This data is different. It's a pain in the and there's so much of it, right? And again, I could show you the emails I've sent to my clients and teams just like you saying, I know you want to video the whole in-home, but let me just tell you, it's really hard to get a good shot, and it's really hard to leverage after, and just let's do the last 15 minutes, we'll just sort of ask them to. But for the first time, I think technology can help us, and things like camera installation are making that even more cumbersome, right? So hours and hours, and I think for some people who haven't thought about doing that yet in your method, the observational is creating even more video than you could imagine. But good news, this is where technology can enable. This is my shameless plug. There are more than just us. I think we are the best at it, but there is a way to leverage sort of more web-based, searchable technology. Ross showed some of it, his for mobile. Ours is across all kind of, again, the observational capture. It's ethnographic video from anywhere, from anything. So even those who are working in community spaces, you can get video and put it into this format. And I think actually some of the beauty could be the multi-method. So where you have done some things in a community, but you're also going into an in-home, and you want to put all of that in the same place and sort of analyze it in some of the same frameworks. But this is the kind of thing that's going to make that manageable. And there are teams like mine that can, to Ross's point, sort of do some of the dirty work, dig in and do some of the tagging that is a little more cumbersome, but just help your teams, help you as researchers jump to the parts that are really important so that your analysis can become more robust. I hope this starts the question of what would we stop asking? What would we start just watching? How would we kind of chill out on, and we'll talk discussion guides in a minute, but on some of the more formal aspects of our research and lean into what we can just watch. But before, I said this is a passion area of mine, and I want to talk a little bit about what this means for connection and how we still start with the human in all of this. Because I think there could be some of you in the audience that are saying, I don't want to become a scientist, right? I don't want to put people in a glass box and watch them. I want this to be about connection, and I think there's, don't worry, ways to do that. Let's go to here. Okay, so discussion guides. I was so inspired. Our CEO in London was talking to us one day about his sort of qualitative training, and he said he had a professor once that said, if you want to learn about your researcher and how they interact with your category, look at their discussion guide. I was like, what does he mean? Oh my gosh, of course. Because the way we craft a discussion guide is based on what? Our memories of how we do what we do, our experiences watching others, and we are working hard, and we're great at it, to make them as objective as possible. But no matter how you steer a conversation, it starts with you. And my question and hope for us is how can we think about, of course, doing that eventually in our methods, but what if we started with something much more open than that? Where it's just, we say, over the next week, show me what shopping means to you. And we just chill, and we're in some pain because we want to tell a little bit more about, so that we get the right videos and we make sure that she doesn't go too crazy with it. But don't worry, because if you have some technology to help you manage that, you really can just let her go. And you can step back and sort of watch, what does she even, when she hears shopping, does she hear something that I meant? Because that's interesting. When she thinks of her shopping, does she show some of the trips that in between we find out later didn't exist? That's interesting. How do we just step back, doing food research? How do we say, just set your cell phone up, hit record on breakfast for the next 3 days. Just want to see how it rolls. Right? No discussion guide, just her kind of leading and letting us into our lives. So my encouragement, again, if technology can help us, it can be in those moments, because I do think, and maybe a show of hands just so I'm not alone on this. Oh, that wasn't very qualitative of me. There are moments where I feel like I've asked this already, like with the same brand that I've done research before. Have you ever had somebody ask you, Emily, can you, I know that we, or it just makes its way. Okay, I'll just admit the one that I know comes up all the time, which is like, can you ask her what a good value is? Yes, thanks for that. Like, that is right. I mean, of course, that's so important, but what? How would you answer that question? Good value? I mean, I know what I buy. I know what size I buy. But if we just chilled out and let ourselves watch them, again, just maybe it's just the moment you unpack your groceries. Just video that for me. What'd you buy? And we watch it over a couple of times and start to think about, it's clear she's excited about this, and then we can go in and ask her. And then by the end, we know what a good value means. We didn't have to ask that because that's not how people talk. Oh, man, sorry, I'm rambling even more than I thought I would. Tell Sam it's not because of him that we go over time. Okay, so I also think there's some, again, in observational studies, even this, there's an opportunity for us to think about connection and sort of adding meaning to this show, not tell space. I'm talking with the Ipsos team about how do we observe and then do sort of a replay with consumers where we watch it together. Like, what a brilliant way to not just, again, because we treat people as something we need to observe, but bring them into that fold. What did you see when you did that? What do you think you were thinking? Again, not because they can, we know system 1, system 2, and all of those things, but because we might learn something about themselves, how they view themselves, that we've never before. Okay, really quick on tagging. I think there's so much potential here, and maybe just the point of all of this, to not bore you and give you to ask some questions, is that if we can put a little more emphasis on our expertise as analysts. I know a lot of you have really brilliant analytical frameworks. I know there are ways for you to sort of tag, even for clients in the room, to apply your segmentation to moments of videos with consumers. Because you can tag, of course, by classification, and you can show when a brand or when it's mentioned, but you can also tag for insight. And that's what I was talking about earlier, sort of bringing our analysis to the forefront for our clients, sort of show them how you break down the video and where it happens and what it looks like, and your expertise sort of getting them to the places that are really critical, but also allowing them to interact, which gets to the last point of like how we engage with our clients can be so much more robust when we're collaborating in the data. And again, video data of all things, how rich. So I do think, hopefully, if you're able to spend a little more time and know that it's all going to a place and we're going to analyze it, we've got some help doing that, the platform's going to be leveraged for sort of a more rich, robust, we're going to look at nonverbals, we're going to apply sort of sentiment, and we're going to use some facial coding. There's all sorts of things you can do that are amazing. So maybe we can just be a little more patient in the research portion and maybe not, again, jump to that good value, or maybe even just relax when we're in the moment with a consumer and not feel like we have to figure it out yet. Maybe we can train ourselves to just take a deep breath and know that we're going to get there, that we have partners that can help us get there if we have tools like this. So my hope is, and I think, again, part of the burden for some of the teams that are coming, because I got an email I got to send at the end of the day today on what we learned today. Like, how do we, maybe we even capture without the whole team, which is where I'm getting, because, well, yeah, here, I'll just go to this one. and then I'll shut up, I promise, guys. Oh, here we go. So maybe we even change the way we debrief. Maybe if the capture is done in a more interesting sort of, again, we're capturing on a video, so don't worry, guys, you're going to get to all see it. But it's done in a way that's consumer-led. We've done a lot of it in advance, and the real art is how we take teams through it. You have a lot of great facilitators in this room that can help you debrief with the whole team there. The guys that never show up for research can be there, can be engaged in the content itself. And oh, by the way, it lives on. So it's still there after the fact. So even if they don't come, we can create sort of themes and use our tiles in this setting, but there's lots of ways to theme the videos in ways that are sort of smaller bite-sized chunks, but also still, again, not just the 2 to 3 minute overview of what we've learned. I think that's probably plenty. Maybe I'll just wrap up. There is a wrap-up slide. There it is. All right, so my hope is through technology, when videos, data, we see more, we listen more deeply, we connect better than ever before. It's where my heart is in all of this. I would love to lean all the way into consumer-led research and think about what that means for your categories. It's my favorite thing to brainstorm, so if you have no idea what I'm talking about but are still mildly curious, please chat with me. I think technology can make us efficient. We can analyze, kind of be more patient and prioritize the connection, think more about how would they take us on a journey and what does that mean for how we design. And then please, please extend that to your broader teams. Again, this all goes away if we can't make people think and feel in the way that is helpful to the people we serve. That's all I got.
Have you figured out the chapter in your life?
Oh, God. I'm a mother of 2, and my youngest is 9 months old, so I would call it chaos, is what I would call it. I think I said something along those lines of, like, intense amounts of...
Any questions? I actually do have another related to this. So when you were talking about the discussion guide, I thought that was a really interesting thought because I hate sending discussion guides and they're like, oh, you missed the one question. How would you talk a client out of needing that?
Well, I think it's in mixed methodology. So again, hopefully don't hear me saying we need to stop even with discussion guides. It's more about do some work up front to see how they would lead you through their life, through your category, through this idea that you're sort of still pontificating on first. Give them a chance to lead you before you get in, and lead I know is a strong word in this industry, but before you get in there and sort of construct the conversation and keep it all in bounds the way the client needs to. So I think it's actually a little bit more about that. I mean, I do think the 4 and 5 and 6 page ones need to go away. I will admit that. I think that's just a little much. I think but you need topics and you need to be sure that everyone knows that here are our objectives and here's how we're going to get through them. But I just think it's an encouragement to think about the show moments and what it would look like for her to take you on a journey before you get in and kind of get to the nitty-gritty of what you need to know. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you.